Expect more, achieve more. The new book is titled Leaders in the Crossroads, Success and Failure in the College Presidency. I've fashioned, in a sense, a trilogy, two other books that start out with Leaders in the Crucible, Leaders in the Labyrinth, the previous two. This book grew out of a continuing interest in the presidency that led me, and in conversation with other people, to say someone needs to address the issue of how and why do these presidents succeed and fail. And I think it's important to note that it really is success and failure. There are some that are absolute successes. There are others that are absolute abject failures. And I speak to some of those in the book. Many are a mix. And obviously, if part of my intent is to address the higher ed community, leaders in higher education, boards of trustees, corporation members, faculty, and so forth, who are often involved in selecting men and women for the post of president. What I'm trying to do is sort of forecast, if you will, or help them with what might be some predictions of how do you find somebody who might tend more toward the success end of things and less away from failure. It's also an interesting historical read in terms of looking at people who have been in these jobs and my evaluation of them. And I pretty boldly make some claims about some presidents that some people may disagree with, may be very, in a sense, angry about, because they're going to be provoked by what I have to say. I've got four, in a sense, pivot points, or four monikers that I think are over and over again determinants, or at least places that one can utilize to make a fair judgment of a president. And this was important to me because I felt that if I was going to start judging people in a book like this, I needed to say, what are the criteria? The criteria are not rocket science, but for people who haven't really followed these things closely, these may be new things. The first is that presidents need to understand that they stand on the shoulders of others. They don't come in out of nowhere. This is not tabula rasa. They come into a place with a history, with a legacy. They come in on the backside of predecessors. Their most recent person that they take over from, but also others that preceded that person. The second thing is kind of almost ironic, and that is that these presidents need to understand that they have to embrace what I call the marketplace of ideas. Colleges and universities are marketplaces of ideas, but there are ironically presidents that don't get it. They want to suppress ideas, they want to push back against open debate, open discourse. Somebody has an idea, it's not politically correct, let's crunch it down, let's keep it out of here, keep it out of the discourse. The third thing is that they need to wisely use the bully pulpit. And there's a whole batch of things that I've addressed in this book, in previous work, about the bully pulpit, but the major thing is to understand that they have it, they need to use it. They can't hide that under a bushel. There is a place for them to be public spokespeople, in writing, in oral rhetoric, and so forth, on and off their campus, in and outside the gates. The last thing is the issue of crises. And crises, I sort of, in a sense, I don't really dumb this down, but I basically say, look, crises are either going to be those that you had no control over, that hit you, that roll over you, and you then have to start addressing, or they can be those of your own making. In either case, you've got to deal with the crisis or the series of crises that you may face. And successful presidents, not surprisingly, are the ones who deal well in crisis. And failed presidents, even if they continue on in office, are ones that don't handle crises well. The presidency, in my mind, continues to be something that people need to be concerned about, the college and university presidency. People need to be concerned about. These presidents still are prominent leaders. This notion of it's a bygone era when there were these giants of old and they no longer exist, or that the presidents today are so burdened down by politics, by fundraising, that that's all they can do or can be expected of them. And frankly, the less visible they are, the better if they're going to raise lots of money or keep the political thing, in nice kilter for them. These presidents don't happen by accident, and so institutions need to take, any institution would argue that they take great care in their selection. I understand that. But I think what I'm arguing for is there's a level of looking and a level of care that needs to be taken that needs to be even greater maybe than people expect. The major thing that I see is, and I'm probably an advocate for this, so there would be people who would say you're wrong, and so then we can have a debate, is what I call the public intellectual or the academic scholar president, the academic scholarly background in the president as leader. And again, I think that's something that people have felt has maybe gotten pushed down in recent years, and I don't just mean the last 5 or 10 years. You could calculate probably back to the 60s or even maybe even earlier of the looking for presidents who were going to be managers, CEOs, executives, executive kinds of leaders, built on the business corporate model. I think what I'm saying is that always they have had to be intellectual forces. They've had to be academicians, scholars. Now you've shown that you can be a president. That's true, but they may have so far left their own academic roots behind that now all they are is an academic bureaucrat, an academic administrator. And I think we need to steer away from that. We need people who are going to be much more vital, have that intellectual vitality.